Hi, historians. This is day 48. This is 48D, and we're finishing up talking about Napoleon. This will be our last lecture for today. A few important things to know about Napoleon, including how does he fall and his Waterloo. So during the French Revolution, he became a general because of all the battles that he won. And in 1796, he married a woman named Josephine. In 1799, he abandoned his troops in Egypt to head for France. And that is when he and others staged a coup d'etat in France, which means they took over that temporary government that was corrupt anyway. And then he became the dictator of France. So they replaced a king for a dictator. The king wanted riches and to be left alone, and the dictator wanted to have men fight and die in his army so that he could take over more territory. So who do you prefer? Napoleon conquered other countries and forced people into the military to do that. And there were people who wanted to get behind him as well. Spain, Italy, the Netherlands, he took over. 1807, he held the largest empire since the Romans. I think we forget that about Napoleon. He is a big name, but we forget how he just took over stuff. 1803, he sold the Louisiana Territory to the Americans. We call it in America the Louisiana Purchase. I think it was about $15 million that he sold it for. In 1804, he had himself and his wife crowned emperor and empress. So he really is trying to take all the power to have totalitarian power. There's a painting of him receiving that crown of emperor. So France doesn't have a king, but now it has an emperor. It's even more powerful than a king. In 1805, Napoleon abandoned his plan to invade England when Lord Admiral Nelson, who is a hero, beat the French and Spanish navies at Trafalgar. And the reason that Napoleon had access to the Spanish Navy was because he had already taken over Spain, not because Spain was particularly fond of him. So, the Trafalgar incident, British Admiral Nelson, a hero in Britain. And Napoleon was kind of embarrassed and not appreciative of this experience. And so he punished the English with the continental system. This is a picture of Admiral Nelson, the hero in England. Trafalgar Square, we commemorate Nelson's holding back of Napoleon. And there is a picture of the Battle of Trafalgar. In 1809, he divorced Josephine for a similar reason to King Henry VIII and all of his wives, his 6 wives. Too bad for Josephine. And then he married an Austrian princess, Marie Louise, who's actually related to the Antoinettes and related to King Louis. So they go back to that royal family again. And this son, Napoleon, was actually related to the dethroned Louis and Marie. And Napoleon decided that his son would be the king of Rome. Napoleon's big mistake, 1812. He decided to invade Russia in the wintertime. It is always a mistake to invade Russia in the wintertime. He marched 500,000 men into Moscow, the capital. The Russians withdrew, burning their food supply along the way, scorched earth policy. They're going to do it again in World War II. Thousands of Napoleon's troops freeze and starve as they march west. There's a painting showing that. So that's the beginning of the end for Napoleon, really. 1814, the Russians, to get back at Napoleon for this insult of invading their homeland, the Russians invade France. And Alexander I of Russia plucks Napoleon off the throne. He says, "You're done." And he says Napoleon cannot be emperor anymore. And under the guidance of Alexander I of Russia, Napoleon is exiled to the island of Elba in the Mediterranean. He escapes, takes over Paris again for 100 days. Quite a character, Napoleon. The restored King Louis XVIII flees away. Here's a painting. Napoleon had himself painted a lot. Quite a large ego. His final defeat, his final Waterloo. Britain, Prussia, Russia, and Austria join forces against him and defeat him June 18th, 1815 at Waterloo, Belgium. So if you hear somebody's Waterloo, that's kind of a way of saying